All right. Good? All right, here we go. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm so happy to be back, see all of your familiar faces. I'm very excited to talk about some of my travels. I visited 3 main countries, so what we'll kind of do is I'll talk about each country, and then at the end, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to ask. This can be interactive and casual. You guys know me, so. So, let us start. I went on missions from August 26th through October 7th. So we had 6 weeks, and in those 6 weeks, I took 16 flights, and I visited 5 countries according to my passport. So just stamp in and out every time. I traveled with a group called Commissioned, which is a group of 4 of us. I met them in England when I was living and working over there. So I met up with the founders of that group in England, and then we traveled together to other places. So I was very thankful not to travel by myself. I was never alone, but I was with my group and my people. So we went to 3 main countries, which will be on the next slide. So we went to Uganda, Tanzania, and India. So starting with Uganda. Next slide. So here's a map, just in case we need to know where Uganda is. It's in Africa. It is called the Pearl of Africa, and it was given that name by Winston Churchill in 1907, who came there and saw how beautiful it was. He saw the wildlife, he saw the waterfalls, and thought, this is the most beautiful place. So it is called, to this day, the Pearl of Africa. This is their flag, and everyone thinks it's a chicken on it. It is not a chicken, it's some other bird. They speak a language called Luganda there, so it's Uganda with an L in the front. It is one of the most complicated languages I've ever heard, and when I was teaching, they were translating, and I would say something like, hello everyone, and then 3 minutes later, I would go back to talking. So lots of words in Luganda. It was beautiful. There was red dirt, palm trees. It was very warm during the day, but very cool at night. So it was lovely. Our purpose, on the next slide, this is our team that went. So my group, Commissioned, partnered with 2 other ministries, City Vision Africa and Unique Women, which are both based out of the UK. And we hosted a 3-day women's conference over there. 500 people, or over 500 people, attended. And it was supposed to be just for women, but the men were a little bit curious. Who are these foreigners? What are they teaching our women? So they told the pastors, we're coming, and we're going to sit in, and we're going to observe what you guys are teaching our women. So the first day, we had a couple men here and there, and by the end of day 3, the whole church was packed, men, women. We ended up having a special men's session going on. We had a youth session that I got to be a part of. It was amazing. We also were able to visit 2 local churches on Sunday to try and see what the culture of worship there is. One church was in the bush, which I think Lina has told you. Some people walk 4 or 5 hours out in the bush of Africa to get to church. 4 or 5 hours, yes. Some don't have shoes. They go out to the church with a town of no water and no electricity. And they'll get there at 8 in the morning, and they will stay until 2 in the afternoon because they are there to worship, and that is their time. It took us 3 hours to get there by car, and we were very close. And we were late getting there, and they all stayed, and not a single person left. So it was amazing to see the heart of worship and the heart they have for the church. We also partnered with another ministry called Heart of Prayer, which I will come back to later, and had a one-day prayer conference there. So we really got to see 4 or 5 different churches in the area, got to worship with over 600 people total. It was incredible. So at the next slide. So these are a couple of pictures. In the top, that was at the women's conference, and we fed everybody lunch every single day. So you can see all of the people lined up. That's just one side of it, but everybody is lined up, ready to get lunch. On the far top side, that is the church in the bush. So that's where people come, no water, no electricity. They have to bring in a Wi-Fi router because Wi-Fi is not accessible like it is here. So the floor, as you can see, is dirt. And then the chairs that are out are only used there on Sundays. So they set all the chairs out for Sunday, they clean them, and they lock them away so that they don't get stolen during the week. We also, on the bottom here, got to go to the source of the Nile River. The Nile River flows south to north, so Uganda is actually the source of the Nile, which was very cool. And then on the far bottom side, that is our team, and the woman in the middle is named Mama Maria. She is a missionary from Austria who has lived in Uganda for 50 years. She started a hotel there to kind of bring work experience and hospitality training to the people of Uganda to give them some skills, some life skills. It's a Christian hotel, so when you work there, you also go to discipleship training. There's an orphanage on site, there's a school on site. Everyone is lovely, the food is good, it's beautiful. We stayed in little huts that were all safari animal themed. So I stayed in the zebra hut, and it was very cute, which you'll see some more pictures. A little bit more about the food and culture on the next slide. So the word to describe the food of Uganda is starchy. Starches fill you up. So we were given noodles, rice, bread, and mashed bananas all together every meal. Every meal, because it goes a long way. And some people, if you're only eating once a day, you want those starchy foods to fill you up. We had chicken, beef, fish. Most of the meat is cooked in banana leaves. So if you see this picture on the top, at the very top of the plate, there's like a little leafy package. I was going down the line in the bush, and they were like, "Here you go." I said, "This looks like leaves. What is this?" They said, "No, when you open, it's chicken. It's chicken." I was like, "Okay." So we had some chicken, rice. They're big on greens there. And then they had white yams and peanut sauce, which were very good. For breakfast, we would always have fruit, and they had the most ripe, fresh fruit I've ever seen of watermelon, pineapples, bananas, avocados, just perfect every single day. They do not have a lot of dessert in Uganda. Sweet things, not something people have. We actually didn't realize that we weren't having dessert until the very end when someone was like, "Oh, I could really use some ice cream." And we're like, "Yeah, we don't have any of that here." We're like, "Oh, we've gone the whole week, no cookies, no cake, no chocolate, nothing like that." We did have tea and coffee almost every day, so that was good. The culture of Uganda, so if you're going to Uganda, you have to apply for a visa. And it's only good for a certain amount of time. So I have 2 visas for Uganda with flights coming in and out. Even if you're there overnight, you still need a visa. You still have to pay the $50. We had to have letters from the pastor, from the church, as to why we were there. We had to have proof of all of our vaccinations, all of that. So everyone knew when we were coming to Uganda, we were coming for this reason, here's where we were staying, all set. There is tons of mission work going on in Uganda, and there has been for a long time. So you see the Christian influence around the communities. There's murals of Jesus, there's Bible verses, not just in churches or like the Christian hotel that we were in, but just all around the city, which very encouraging. I would say the two most prominent businesses in Uganda are churches and gas stations. You're driving down the road, you will see them just lined up one after another. The president of Uganda, fun fact, has been in power for 38 years. That is not how long their term is, but he keeps changing that every year. He's also 80 years old, and they did have an age limit, but as you can imagine, he changed that law when he was getting up there. So they are having elections in 2025, so pray for Uganda. With the Christian influence, a lot of people have English names, which makes it very easy when you're talking to people. They say, oh, my name is Elijah, or oh, I'm Pastor Brenda. Like, I'll remember that one. Thank you so much. Some things that were a little bit strange to us. If you haven't heard of African time, it's a real thing. People in Africa love the slow version of life. If we here have something start at 9 o'clock, you show up at 9 o'clock, and maybe you show up at 8:50, and at 9 o'clock we're starting, ready to go. 9 o'clock in Uganda could be any time between, 9 to maybe 9:59, because that's all in the hour of 9. So you just never really know when things are going to get started. We had a joke driving everywhere of the Uganda 45 minutes. We arrived at the airport, and they were like, oh, yes, we'll pick you up from the airport. It will be about 45 minutes to the hotel. Amazing, great. 3 hours later, we arrived at the hotel. So we were like, oh, 45 minutes, okay. When we were driving out to the bush, they told us, 45 minutes, I promise, just 45 minutes. Hour and a half, easy. Like, okay, guys, rough estimate. They told all of us when we were there, you all look too Western. You look way too Western. You need to dress like us. You need to wear the dresses. You need to wear the bright colors. Men dress in a very Western style. So you'll see a man walking around with jeans and a t-shirt on. But the women are always in traditional dress, anywhere you go. So walking along the street, you'll see men just in casual, some even have like football jerseys or soccer jerseys, and the women are all in traditional gear. And everyone dresses up for church. They bring out the best clothes, their finest hairstyles for conferences, for churches, everything. Like that is their time to look their best for the Lord. Some culture shock things. White people are a novelty there. So I definitely know the word for white person over there. I got called it many times. It's fine, not to worry. They loved my hair. They thought it was very soft. Like, oh, the kids would come up and try and pet my skin, and they'd say, oh, can I feel your skin? I'm like, go ahead, same as you. So that was interesting. Everywhere you went, people were very aware that you were white, so that took some getting used to. Witchcraft, very big in Uganda. Tribal rituals are a thing. We saw people with face paint in traditional dress, leading some children out in a parade. So coming to the churches, that is something that they have to deal with, is practice of witchcraft. And people are self-proclaimed witch doctors and things like that. So we met a boy there who said that his father was a witch doctor and who had 4 wives. We were like, okay, How are we gonna, minister to this boy? Driving is an absolute nightmare. If you're driving in Uganda, would not recommend. They've actually been in the news for some of the worst potholes. They take up the entire road. There's no such thing as driving lanes. You just drive wherever you want, which is helpful to no one. And lots of people drive on motorbikes. So in all 3 countries, I kept track of all the things that I saw on a motorbike. And in Uganda, the wildest thing was a coffin on the back of a motorbike. So if you can imagine driving down the road and you just see a coffin, it was this way. It wasn't, I don't really know. I don't know a better way to put it on a motorbike, but it was just out there. And it was interesting. We also drove on the road as it was being dug up. So, road construction has to happen. Why close the road? If you just make a little path on this side, you and the excavator can be doing your thing at the same time. No big deal. They are a very honoring people, so they will bow before you. If they bring you something, we had people bringing us bottles of water, and they always came and bowed at our feet. People would say thank you and bow. And at first we were like, oh, no, like don't be bowing to us. But they do that to all elders, all pastors, everyone with some sort of leadership out of respect. So they were like, no, it's not just for you, it's our culture. Like we love to honor people and we love to serve. So that was good. There is absolutely no PDA allowed in Uganda. Husbands and wives, no. So I was traveling with a husband and wife who are just affectionate. They'll put each other's hands on each other's back, and they were told, no, don't do that. Even at the conference, you sit separately, you do not touch, you do not hug, you do not show any affection. Everyone is addressed in familial language, so I would be called sister. So they'd be like, oh, sister. Or someone older than me would be mom or dad, sister, brother. So everybody's family. It was really hard to keep actual families straight, because they'd be like, oh, this is my dad. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, no, my dad works over here. I'm like, you just said this was your dad? Okay, older. Got it. Like I said, no Wi-Fi anywhere, no data. People here have their smartphones and you can just access anything at any time. Not the case in Uganda. It's very expensive to have that turned on. So it caused a little bit of panic for some members of my team. I absolutely loved it. Just being disconnected, could just take pictures, not have to worry about who's trying to get a hold of me. The toilet situation, I just have to share briefly, is not like what we have here. Most toilets are just holes in the ground for women, or just a latrine for men. Toilet seats are thought of to be disgusting. If you sit on a toilet, what is wrong with you? You are going to get sick. Thankfully, at the hotel, they cater to foreigners, so we had some toilet seats. But out in the community, hard to find a public restroom. And if you did find one, be prepared to squat. Again, a hole in the ground is not as big of a deal to a man as it is a woman. Interesting time. On our next slide. So this is our band at the conference. Some amazing testimonies that we received. We saw many people being set free from demon possession, something very new to me. Didn't know really how to go about that the first day, but it was very interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of witchcraft there. So there are people who have been possessed by demons. It was very sad to see the children who would come to the front. They would confess Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and then they would start screaming and thrashing around. Nothing like we see here. And then they would be prayed for and be resting, and their physical appearance was different after. It's hard to explain, but it was wild. The youth are very involved in the churches. There's a video that I'll show later with kids in pink shirts dancing with kids not in pink shirts, and the pink shirts are the Sunday school leaders. So when you reach a certain point in Sunday school, you now become the teacher. So the 10-year-olds are teaching the 5-year-olds, things like that. And children are involved in every area. Worship, they sit through the message, they bring their notebooks, they bring their Bibles, they are ready to learn. The family dynamics of some people were changed during this conference. A man came up and said that he was a pastor and did not treat his wife as his wife, but just someone who is there to serve him. And he treated his children as if they were just a product of that. And he never hugged his wife the whole time that they were married. And he said after the conference, he went home, and for the first time, he hugged his wife, which was a big deal. And he said, it's been weeks, and their family has changed. And their children are no longer afraid of him, but they see him as a true father that they can go to and know that he loves them. And him and his wife are laughing together. Imagine laughing together with your spouse. They weren't doing that. One of the most powerful testimonies was at the end of the conference when a man came up to say that he had planned his own suicide that weekend. So the conference ended on Friday. And he said that his wife was going to give birth to a baby, and he was going to see the baby and then take his life. But he encountered the love of God, and he did away with that plan and was just so excited to go home and to see his baby, to see his wife, and stay and be there for them. So that was amazing. I have a little video to show you. In this video, you'll see clips of our hotel. You will see church out in the bush, so I hope you enjoy the worship style. You'll see a little video from the Nile River and some shops along there, clips from the conference. During the conference, we actually had a special session for the pastors' wives as well, because spouses of people in ministry do a lot behind the scenes, and they said that no one has ever come to speak and has acknowledged them. So that was very cool to be a part of and to meet with them. And then you'll also see some of the landscapes and see some of the driving. So let's see our video. There might be a play button if you just hover over the video. If not, that's okay. We'll just keep going. Oh, there we go.
Overjoyed, not just happy. I'm overjoyed. May the Lord God abundantly bless you. Amen. This
That's the source of the Nile. There. You see how it's springing up. Abamu babasinkanye Sekiddo.
Mwasuze mutya?
What a joy.
And it would cost approximately four.
My little video. On the next slide, if we can keep that one up, I have some ways that you can pray for Uganda. I have 3 different sections here. So for Uganda, if you would like to pray for the pastors and leaders, they really need encouragement to persevere. It can get really lonely in ministry, it can get really difficult when you don't have some of the modern luxuries to keep going, to reach out to people. So they need prayers to persevere. There's a lot of pastors that depend on foreigners for their help. And God has called them to ministry the same way he calls people here. So we believe that they can do it. They don't need us. We are not the answer. Missionaries from America, from the UK, we're not the answer. We just point to Christ, who is the answer. And then wider access for biblical training and teaching. Here we kind of take those things for granted because you can listen to a podcast or you can come to church and hear different speakers and watch videos and get books, and they don't have that over there. For marriages and families, kind of tying back to the husband and from the conference, that men would take delight in their wives and children. A lot of women are being deserted by their husbands. If they can't provide for their family, they just give up and move on. So we saw a lot of single mothers and children, and that families would worship together. Similar to here, there's a lot of women who come to worship to churches with their children, and the husbands will not join them. But we know that when families worship together, there is much more power in that. And then with culture and society, just a release of the witchcraft, the demonic strongholds that are there from poverty and from corruption, especially with their elections coming up. They would love to see someone new in office, but doubtful that that will be possible with all of the corruption that happens. So my last little bit on Uganda are some personal reflections that I have. The next slide. And you can't read them, but no worries, because I'm going to tell you them. My reflections from Uganda, it was my favorite place of all of the countries that I went to. Just incredible people, so focused on serving. How can they help you? How can they serve you? How can they give something to you? There's such a deep commitment to God and to his church, just from, the hours and the miles that they walk to get to places of worship. Really made me question, oh my gosh, it's snowing outside. I guess I have to drive 20 minutes, when they're out there walking with no shoes. Really strong involvement of children and youth in all areas, which is just working with kids and working with youth, it is the greatest thing to see. Especially in our youth session, we had kids stay for 2 hours extra just to ask us questions and to say, I really wanted to know this, but I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this. So the young people are getting involved. They're not just sitting by, but they are getting involved. And the last reflection was they really have a lot of faith in these visitors that come visit them, which is, it's hard to receive because you know that you provide nothing. You know, you are just pointing them the way. So we tried to make that very clear. Those are some of my personal reflections. Great food, great weather, even better people. So that is all I have on Uganda. Is there anyone who has questions? Lina has a microphone if you do. Don't feel like you have to have any questions also. I know that was kind of a lot. Julie has one.
You're welcome.
Sydney, can you talk a little bit about their health care, or, you know, if you had any not experience so much with that as just seeing how it works or talking with someone?
I have no idea. I did not see any hospitals. I did not see any ambulances. Yeah, I don't know anything about their healthcare system. Yes. Sorry.
About, like mosquitoes, was it real humid?
It wasn't too bad. We slept with mosquito nets. But outside, I did not see really any bugs or any flies like that. We all wore mosquito spray, and we all had malaria tablets. But I think the mosquito nets aren't just at the hotel. I think those are in people's homes as well. Sometimes you don't have a bed, so you just sleep on the floor, but you still have a mosquito net to cover you. All right. So trip number 2 was to Tanzania, or Tanzania, as they pronounce it. And the best way that I can describe Tanzania is think of the Lion King with the mountains and the yellow dirt. There's banana farms everywhere. We flew right over Mount Kilimanjaro, which was very cool. It's very cool temperatures. It's not very hot there, and it was very dusty and dry. So I have another picture of a map here. There's Tanzania, there's their flag. So we are right below Uganda. Very beautiful. We did not take any safaris at either place, which was a little bit disappointing for me. Maybe next time. But they have been known to have some of the best safari experiences in the world. People travel to Tanzania just to go on the safaris. When we got there, we were tired, we were sweaty, we were dirty, and there was a caravan of people ready to receive us and welcome us, which was just so kind, so lovely. They brought us flowers, they brought us small gifts that they had made. So from the moment we stepped off of the airplane, this was a people of honor. So on my next slide, I have the purpose of why we were there. Again, commissioned, my missions group and City Vision Africa hosted a 4-day women's conference. It was in the evenings. Over 400 people attended that one as well. And similar to Uganda, aimed for women, but the men were a little bit suspicious, so they came along as well. We also got to see 2 pieces of property that the church there owns. One was inside the city, which they are making into a hotel, so that when people come and visit their church, they don't have to find accommodation, but they can just stay in the hotel. And another one is up in the mountains, and it is going to be a Bible school. So they are putting together a Bible school program, curriculum, that they are running themselves. So they've got all the plans, and they were very excited to show us. And in Tanzania, we did not stay at a nice hotel. We stayed in a hostel, which, different experience, still great. I should say, on all of my travels, I never felt unsafe or anything like that. So on my little picture slide here, so this dress was made in Tanzania for me. Once again, I was told, you look too Western, and they did something about it. So this is the woman who made my dress. She took my measurements on Thursday, and on Saturday morning, I was in it. So they were moving very quickly. As you can see, I have a little extra piece of fabric here, and I had no idea what this was. And they said, well, that is when the praise and worship just gets going, and you feel like doing this. I was like, well, you don't know me very well, because I'm pretty reserved, but thank you so much. And then there's another picture up there of the church. So it's a beautiful building. The steps getting up to it, very slippery. Everybody slipping all over the place, but it was very pretty, very big building, established. It was not out in the bush. And then there is a picture of me speaking at the conference. So when it comes to the food and culture, on the next slide, it's very similar to Uganda in that they eat a lot of chicken, beef, fish. Everybody's favorite dish is pork. Doesn't matter what age you ask, the 6-year-old and the 66-year-old love pork. I was like, all right, we got a lot of pork here. Rice is everywhere. They have banana farms. You can actually get a stalk of bananas for probably 50 cents. And when I say a stalk, probably like 50 bananas on the stalk. So that's how available they are. Again, the avocados are about this big and just perfectly ripe. They have sweet pastries for breakfast, which I'm a fan of. I like that. And they had this bread called chapati, which is like a sweet tortilla, and it was lovely. If you go back to the food picture, so on this bottom half of the picture, you see little black ends. That's the meat. So we joked, in Tanzania, there's no risk of salmonella because they make it burnt sacrifice quality there. But you can see they have a lot of greens. And yes, we do have beef and chicken, and yes, that is a spoon, not a fork and knife. So I ate chicken with a spoon over there, which was quite difficult. And then that was my translator. Her name is Dr. Tabitha. She is a doctor, so I know about the health system of this one. She was my translator. It was her first time translating. Nobody knew that, so they were just like, Dr. Tabitha, come on up. And at the end, she was like, that was my first time. I've never done that before. So it was cool to be part of that. With the politics, the current president of Tanzania is a Muslim woman, and the vice president is a Christian man. So in their country, that's how they do it. Either the president or the vice president, one of them is Christian and one of them is Muslim, to kind of balance each other out, to make sure that one religion does not get too powerful in the nation. Depending on who you ask, this president took power in a rather suspicious way, but no one really knows how. So there is that. Once again, you need a visa to go there for any amount of time, and it is $100 for US citizens, no matter what. If you're there for 1 day, if you're there for 7 days. Excuse me. The capital is Dar es Salaam, which is more Muslim. And then you get out into the villages, and those are more Christian areas. There's also lots of mission work, but the names are more traditional. So in Uganda, we met Pastors Brenda and Elijah. And in Tanzania, we met Pastor Washakunzi. So it took a little bit more to remember those names. Excuse me. Once again, I was told, please dress like us. please wear our African styles. They're just so beautiful. Why would you want to wear your clothes? And men dressed, once again, Western style, button-downs, jeans, slacks. Women, all traditional. And once again, everyone dresses up for church. You put on your best. African time, still a thing, but we are more used to it now when people say, all right, we'll be there at 8:30. And you show up at 8:25 the first day, and you're sitting there until 9:05. The next day, you're like, okay, they say 8:30, so we're going to give them an extra amount of time. There's also no Wi-Fi, no data, driving, same. Absolutely ridiculous. Even less lanes. I don't know how that was possible, but we saw even less driving lanes. And if you remember my motorbike quest, the craziest thing I saw on a motorbike in Tanzania was a cow, a live cow. And not just a cow on a motorbike, but there were also 2 grown men on the motorbike with the cow. So I don't know who's making these motorbikes, but the balance is incredible. In this video of Tanzania, you will see us riding around in a little rickshaw, which is basically a bike with some seats on the back. We only did that once. See some street vendors selling some fruit. I do have a video of the cow on the motorbike, so I hope you enjoy that. Some local shops where all of the goods were handmade by this woman. She was very proud of that, so we had to support her. And then you will see some of the conference, some Sunday worship once again. You'll see lots of people waving these around. And then when we left, there were 4 carfuls of people that brought us to the airport, so you will see the send-off of there. So here is the video of Tanzania. And if we need to keep going, that's fine too. All right, so some prayer points for Tanzania. If you would like to see the cow or anything, I can show you afterwards. So pastors and leaders, there seems to be an isolation of pastors and leaders in Tanzania. They all kind of do their own thing. So just pray that there's a strong fellowship and a community between the pastors, that they can rely on each other, that they don't have to be in competition with one another. And then fulfillment of building projects. They have a lot of things that they would like to have happen. It's all funded. They all have the plans. So just prayers covering those building projects. For marriages and families, we saw a little bit of a shift from Uganda. So Uganda, strong men. Tanzania, very strong women. So the women are kind of now saying, I don't need my husband, I can do this, I can raise the kids, I can run everything, you can just sit back and relax. So lots of interesting dynamics there. And then women would be upset that their husband was being too lazy or being this or being that. And the husbands would say, you're not letting me do anything. We also pray that families would spend time together. There's lots of times where the parents will go out and do their own thing, the kids will be by themselves, and the family just doesn't spend time together as a family. One thing that Tanzania makes sure of is that you have a child. So if a woman and man get married, and the woman is not able to have a child, the man's family will say, it's time for a new wife, because you are nothing without children. So we saw lots of families praying for children or being pressured into getting a divorce because there was no children. And then finally, culture and society. We were honored so generously here. It was amazing, and we pray that the people in the church would take that out and bring that generosity to their community. The dress that I'm wearing was just one gift of fabric. I brought home a suitcase full of fabric. So it's a good thing you didn't have me move back here this time, Lina. You only had books and shoes the last time. This one I would have... I called my mom on my way home and I was like, do we have a sewing machine? Because I think I'm gonna have to learn how to sew. We pray for political peace in Tanzania. It's an interesting system that they have, having one leader Muslim and one Christian. So we just pray for peace, and we pray for financial blessing as well. It's a very impoverished nation, and a lot of people are stuck because they don't have means of bettering themselves. So then my final slide for Tanzania, some of my personal reflections. Also can't see those, no worries. I was really, really humbled by how welcomed we were, how honored we were. I was told that the bishop, when he heard that the lady of my organization was bringing someone like me, he thought, who do they think we are? They are bringing a child to speak to us. Who is this child? But after my first session with them, the bishop actually came up and said, I just want to apologize. I was having all of these thoughts, and she does have the Lord with her. And then he told me that he used me as an example for the young women and the young men, which, yeah, was just so honoring to hear and made me very grateful for the opportunities that the Lord has given me, and I'm thankful. Decisions in church matters are solely based in prayer. I mean, they are praying people, and then they act on it quickly. So there's no waiting around, what should we do, kind of period. They pray about it, and then they go for it, which was really incredible to see. Foreigners are seen as a gift rather than a spectacle. So, excuse me, while they honored us, they were also very proud to tell us all about themselves. They were leading things, which was amazing. Like that, this is a partnership. This is not us, bringing anything beyond special to them. And then, finally, there's just such a great emphasis on the family in Tanzania, which is good to see. Children are such a blessing, and then you get to an older family, and it starts to break apart. So the family really is the core of society. One testimony was at the hostel. It wasn't quite the same level of service that we had in Uganda. We would ask, oh, hello, can we have a cup of coffee? And they would take an hour to get us water and the coffee grounds to make our own. No big deal. It's all fine. It's totally fine. There was one day that we were waiting an hour and a half, and no food ever came. When you drive up to the hostel, someone had to come and open the doors for you. And some days, the woman just didn't want to open the doors for us, so we would sit there and, hello, please come open the door. So we were supposed to stay there, I think 5 nights. We ended up only staying there 4 because our flights got changed. But the pastor stayed an extra night without us. And he told us that he was talking to the woman who ran the hostel. And she said, oh, where are those people? Are they gone? It's like, yes, they left yesterday. Thank you for taking care of them. But they're on to the next place. And she said, were they Christians? And he said, well, yes, they were. She was like, I knew that they were Christians because I treated them so poorly, and they never said anything to me. And they always came in with a smile, and they always said thank you. We would have our meals brought in. People at the church would make us meals, and then we would sit together and eat. And the leftovers we would just give to the people at the hostel. We would just share. And she said, they did not make me eat any different than them. They didn't make me use any separate dishes. or forks, but I got to participate in their meals just the same as them. She said, "Would you please forgive me for how I treated them?" And she said, "Whatever they have, this love, this joy, I want that too." So she actually accepted the Lord and is now involved in a church over there. So it was another humbling testimony to receive when we were already in our next place, and the pastor is calling us to say, the impact of you just letting people eat your food has brought someone to the Lord. So that was such a great encouragement to us here. You know, it's not just, okay, I need to preach the gospel, I need to tell them this, I need to know my Bible, but it's how can I treat people like Jesus did? And they take notice of that. Which, yeah, was a great testimony, again, humbled to be a part of. And they are ready for the next thing that God has for them over there. So that is Tanzania. Does anyone have any questions on that? All right. So on to the last place, and I'm so sorry, but the least place, in my opinion. We are off to India. So, here we go with India. Please. It was amazing, okay? I just want to say it's amazing. The things that I'm going to say, don't let me fool you. It was great. So here's India. It is one of the hottest places I've ever been. So overpopulated. If you like fresh air and personal space, India is not for you. The purpose, on the next slide, the purpose, we partnered with Heart of Prayer. Heart of Prayer Ministries is out of the UK, and they hold prayer conferences all over the world. They've been doing this since 2001, I think. And what they do is they partner with local churches and local pastors, and they lead the conference themselves. So we are there to kind of get things up and running. They pray for the nations, they pray for the leaders, they pray for each other. It's a full day of just prayer and different ways to pray. It's amazing, it's incredible. We should have one here. So we hosted 2 one-day prayer conferences. One was for youth. It was the first ever youth event. And one was for adults. And we had about 100 come out for each event. So I have a couple slides of pictures. So we drank out of coconuts, which is kind of cool. It's how you stay hydrated. This was the river, the Ganga River, or the Ganges River. It's a very spiritual place. And we actually went to the city of Varanasi, which is considered one of the oldest cities in the world. We met so many people from around the world going to Varanasi to worship in the temples, to explore spirituality. They were on their spiritual journey, which was just heartbreaking to see them look for it in the wrong places. But everyone who says, you know, no one is looking for God out there, we don't rely on God, it's not true. People all over the world are looking for God, they're just looking in the wrong places. Varanasi is also known for their silk production, so they have lots of quality silk. Similar to Africa, as you can see, I was, once again, looked too Western, so they really wanted me to leave there with a sari. They made it all up for me, and I was not going to wear a sari, but they tried their best, and I got to know those vendors very well. On the next slide, you will see, so here's another example of a toilet in India, and I really took that picture to remind us that while we're out, we can hold it, because we don't need to go in there. But after seeing that, I hope you are grateful for the plumbing system we have here. Yeah, once again, toilet seats are thought of as disgusting. Who are these crazy people that like to sit down on the bathroom? I don't know, but that's what you'll find there. Also, hand sanitizer was used a lot. This is a statue of Buddha. It is 80 feet tall. They are so proud of their Buddha sculptures and statues. And I didn't really take a lot of pictures of them. We went on a tour throughout the city, and they brought us to different temples, and they were like, go in, go in. We were like, we're okay, thank you so much. They just couldn't believe we did not want to get our picture taken with Buddha. And then the last picture is a palace that their king lived in. It's just very dry and very dull. There's nothing shiny. It's not sparkly, it's not pretty. It's very, I mean, the stonework is amazing. Wonderful. I give them so much credit for that. It was just different than what I have seen. So going to the food and culture. Yes. India, all food is spicy. All food is hot. I am not a spicy food person, so it was a little bit difficult at times to have something that did not make my entire face and throat feel like it was on fire. But we made it work. It was very nice. Over there, the Hindus are all vegetarian, so you will see on all of their food products either a green stamp for veg or a red stamp for non-veg. So everything that we saw, green or red. Lots of chicken, lots of vegetables, potatoes, lentils, and naan bread, which was amazing. When it comes to culture and society, it is so Hindu. You can't walk outside without seeing statues of gods or symbols of Hinduism. And like I said before, tourists from all over the world are coming to India, specifically Varanasi, to experience this, to find Buddha, to find these Hindu gods. In the north of India, it's very anti-Christian. So we could not tell people what we were doing there. We could not tell them that we were Christian. The churches there's no signs on the door. You have to keep all of the windows closed because you can't have the noise escaping through the neighborhood. And when people left, you had to leave in groups of 2 or 3, staggered leaving as to not draw suspicion, which is just very different. So when I got my visa for that one, it was a tourist visa. You get stopped at immigration, and they say, oh, what are you doing here? And it's like, I'm here to travel. I'm here to see the sights. And they're like, oh, well, you are going to see the most incredible temples. You are going to see the biggest Buddha statues. And I'm like, thank you so much. But we were all safe. Nothing unsafe, nothing threatening to us, thankfully. Some things that were strange to our culture, it's very male-dominated. So walking through the airport, the lady and I were walking. We were crossing the street, and a man comes up and puts his hand out to tell us to stop so that he can go through, and then he allows us to walk. So very male-dominated. No personal space whatsoever. Beggars will come up to you in the streets and just hang on your arm as you walk. We did not carry any money with us at any of these places, and we were told, they're going to ask you for money, but don't give it to them. But it was very hard when you've got children following you, touching you, calling out. You have to take your shoes off everywhere. So I was always carrying a pair of extra socks with me. Especially if food is being served, you do not have shoes in the same area as food. It's a cleanliness issue. You are not allowed to take pictures at some museums and some tourist spots. So at some museums that we went to, you had to put your phone and all of your belongings in a locker before you were able to go about. There were animals and garbage everywhere in the streets. Just cows roaming. And of course, if a cow is in the middle of the road, it is your job to avoid the cow. We do not touch the cows. They are allowed to do whatever they want to do. The dogs, the goats, the horses, everything. And not all the animals are treated the best. So you saw very skinny animals. You could see their bones. They were wounded sometimes. It was hard to see. Similar to Africa, in the dress department, men dress very Western. Button-ups and slacks, or a t-shirt and jeans. Women, all in the saris. So everywhere we go, the men have taken on the Western style, and the women have kept their traditional. But, of course, everybody wants you to dress like them, as you can see. The driving situation was even worse in India. There's about 1 million people trying to go through the streets. Even less lanes somehow, and our taxi driver even told us about 40% of the people here drive on the wrong side of the road. Like, oh, okay, great. You can also, the only way to drive in India is if you're honking your horn. I don't know if you know that. We don't do blinkers, no. We do horns. So if you want to switch lanes, just put on your horn, and then that means you can do whatever you want. So very interesting. And my last stop on my motorbike quest were kitchen cabinets stacked on a motorbike, wrapped in shipping tape, and just stuck right there with 2 people also on the motorbike. Just kitchen cabinets above everyone. We also saw 5 to 6 people on a bike, and rickshaws, taxis, trains, people are hanging out the windows, hanging out the side. It was a spectacle. If we can get this video to work, you will hear some worship by the youth at our conference, see a little musical chairs praying. The impact of the weather is huge. Streets are flooded if it rains even a little bit, which means everything is shut down. So, if you are trying to get somewhere, so sorry.
I'll go for airport.
No problem. Where the beads?
Yeah, where the beads.
Whenever you need my help to collect.
So we did go to the Taj Mahal, which was very beautiful. Lots of people at the Taj Mahal asked me to take a picture with me. I was like, I promise I am no one special, but my picture is going around India with families, with children. I had a family ask me while we were talking to our tour guide, like, oh, picture. I was like, oh, I would love to take a picture of your family. Yes, give me 1 second. And I went over to take the phone, and they were like, no, you. I was like, oh, okay. They were like, our daughter. So me and this girl have our picture together at the Taj Mahal, which was cool. You saw some monkeys in the video. There were monkeys everywhere. I was never fast enough with my phone, so it was always the joke of, can Sydney get her phone out fast enough to record the monkeys? So I finally did, and it was, okay, I'm good. I've done everything I have wanted to do. So our prayer points for India then. Under the pastors and leaders, again, strong fellowship and community between them. There's also this competition of who can get more members at their church. If you don't go to my church, I'm not helping you, sort of mentality. they really need prayers for raising up people in their own churches. Pastors are trying to do everything themselves. And so we said, well, who is your team of people? Like, who do you have that will run this and lead worship? And they were like, well, me. I'm leading worship, and I'm preaching, and I'm doing this. Wouldn't it be a good idea, helpful to you, helpful for your congregation if people participated? Oh, yes. So we do have pastors now reporting that they have appointed leaders in their church and have given them some responsibility, which is good, and that they would teach biblical truth. Very important, especially in a culture where Christianity is not known or appreciated. It can be easy to incorporate some Hindu things in with Christianity. For marriages and families, we pray that men would love their wives and would respect women. There's a lot of men talking down to just women. Again, stopping women as they are walking so that they can walk through all of that. And we pray that women will have the courage to witness to their husbands and their families. At the conference for the adults, it was all women and then some pastors. So the women need that courage to bring their husbands, to bring their children along with them. And then for culture and society, just a real release of Hinduism. I mean, it's hard to explain all of the statues that you see. There's so many different gods, and everybody is all about it. Once again, that society would embrace the truth, and that there would be an element of cleanliness to their societies. My personal reflections and testimonies. So this was actually the youth conference, which I just think is a great picture of all of the youth praying together. Some of my personal reflections, it was my least favorite out of the three. Still a powerful time. I'm still so grateful that I got the opportunity to go there. And I'm glad that it was last on my list because I was ready to come home. It was hot. Hot weather, hot food, everywhere you go. They are really, like I said, a weather-based society. So if it's too hot, you cannot meet indoors, which means churches cannot happen. So there were times we were told in the summer it got too hot, so churches had to close and had to stop meeting because they couldn't do it inside. So white people are seen as this novelty. You will get stared down going everywhere. I mean, people will just follow you. We were out at a restaurant, and a bunch of middle school, high school boys were coming up and just taking selfies of us, and we were like, oh, okay. Like it was a lot. I also gained really the value of freedom of religion, that society allows you to worship. People in India are doing this in secret, and they are risking everything, their livelihood, in order to worship how they choose. So we live in incredible freedom to have that, to be able to worship openly like this. It's not how it is all over the world. There's a value in Christian-based society, just in terms of how people get along with one another, how systems are put into place. It's different. Societies are run differently in Christian-based countries than they are in Hindu and Muslim-based. And probably my greatest reflection was just the wholehearted worship that they have. I mean, for 100 kids to come out, to choose to come to an all-day prayer conference, when they know that this is not allowed, and they could be, hurt for that or rejected for that, incredible. It's very humbling, and it makes us think, what do we take for granted, and what truly is the reason that we worship? Some testimonies. Our greatest testimony from India was a man named Havid. Havid was our server at our restaurant in the hotel. And he took very good care of us. He was so kind, so welcoming. And we were there for 2 weeks. So we saw Havid a lot, and we got to know him very well. And he opened up and told us that he is a Muslim, and his wife is a Christian. I'm like, okay, interesting. He assured us it was a love marriage, okay? It was a love marriage, not an arranged marriage, so they respect each other and they have very open conversation about their religion. He allows her and encourages her to go to church and read the Bible, and he reads the Quran and goes to mosque. He said it's been fine. However, they have a 4-year-old son. And the son has been going to church with mom and then mosque with dad. And both Havid and his wife have agreed that they cannot raise their son in both, that they need to choose one. So he said to us, would you pray for my family that we would have the wisdom on the best way to raise our son and that we would be united in this decision? So we still chat with Havid. He checks in every once in a while, continuing to ask for prayers. So we are praying that what God started in him, he will continue. It was very interesting to see how a Hindu society, the males are so aggressive against the woman. And we see a Muslim man who is encouraging his wife to go to church, to practice Christianity, and is allowing their son to be raised like that. All of his in-laws and all of her family are Christian, and that's who they live with. So we were able to give Havid a gift for his wife, which was a mug with a Bible verse on it, and he came back the next day to say, my wife and I really talked about this, and this is an incredible verse. It was, I am clay in the potter's hands. So we are praying for Havid that, once again, what the Lord started in him, he will finish, and that Havid will meet the Lord one day. So those were my adventures of fall 2024. It had been a dream of mine to have been able to travel the world to see what God is doing. It was overall just a humbling experience. Incredible people worshiping in incredible ways. And it really challenged me to kind of wake up in my own faith. Even though I am called to ministry and I'm excited, I'm nothing like these people, risking everything that they have, walking and giving everything that they have, and risking the chance of being persecuted. So it was just so inspiring. It's amazing to see what God has done, and I'm so grateful for all of you, for your support as I was going out. Thank you so much for coming. Just really, I appreciate my church family, and please know that the prayers and the support that you have given to me in this ministry have impacted nations. So, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions about India? Sorry, I kind of jumped ahead on that one.
Sydney, your dress is from Uganda?
Tanzania.
Tanzania. So this little thingamabobby here
Yep.
is a Tanzanian terrible towel for worship.
Yeah, it is.
If you're
It
a
is.
Steelers fan, that would
Yes.
translate to a Tanzanian terrible towel for worship. Just so you know.
It is.
Those of you, how many of you know and love Mitch Farra? How many of you know and love Dana Farra? She looks like her mother, but boy, do her mannerisms look just like Mitch Farra. I was sitting here watching that going, oh my, I think I even texted your mother and said that. So thank you, Sydney, for coming back to share this with us. We are so proud of you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And so we'll want to hear what your next adventure is all about. Oh,
This might be the cow.
Oh, the cow.
This might be the cow. There's the cow. Oh,
my gosh.
there's the cow.
It is a cow.
It's a cow. It's a real life cow. This is the little,
So-
the shop.
Is it easier, because I'd have to add all of her information.
And this is what the community believed would heal them. na hata jamii iliamini kwamba mahali hapo ndio palikuwa pana uponyaji wake. What had happened, he was just totally healed. Aliponywa na alifuata kwenye ofisi ya mchungaji mwenyeji
Bye.
Yes. The terrible towel in action.
That's correct. Tanzanian terrible towel. Thank you again, Sydney, for coming to share with us. I remind all of you that our church meeting is tomorrow night. Next Wednesday, we'll be preparing for Operation Christmas Child. The following Wednesday is Thanksgiving Eve, so we're not having programming. On December the 4th, we will be decorating the tree. On December the 11th, Mr. and Mrs. Prosser will be making supper for us, and we'll have our Christmas sing-along. And then on December the 18th, Steve will be hosting our Blue Christmas service. So some of you were asking me about what the upcoming Wednesdays are going to be like. Thank you all for coming, and please come by and thank Sydney yourselves.